5 a.m. Time to get up and go to work. Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to American Truck Simulator. And this is going to be a bit of a different video from usual, but you know what? I've been busy lately, I've been putting out a lot, and I'd really like to play something that's just a bit more chill. After all, this channel is about the creepy and comfy, and it's not to say this game can't have its creepy moments as well. I mean, when you're all alone in this cab, the only truck on the road, driving through the desert at night, and that's certainly something we're going to be experiencing. It's the constant respite, you know? You're always on the road in this job, and oftentimes, if something strange is going to happen, you're the only one who's going to see it. Especially considering oftentimes it's in your own head due to sleep deprivation, which isn't a good thing, but don't tell the DOT. Anyways, I just recently spent like $40 on DLCs or whatever after not really paying anything for it after I got it in 2016, and wow, this game has changed a lot. Pretty much the entire western half of the country has been added, greatly expanding the range of jobs that are available. And even the lighting, the atmosphere, everything has just really come into being in the time I've been away. Now, I figured there was no better way to really explore that and just sort of have fun with stream of consciousness, podcasty sort of thoughts than to take on the longest job I have ever seen or have ever had the opportunity to see in this game. See, right now, if we come around the corner, well, I'll go over it when we get there. Even right now, I'm so glad for the time this is starting because I don't know about you, but I've always loved the air right before a big road trip. Those long-distance things that you've been excitedly planning out for months. Waking up this early it's always been really thrilling to me. The sun's still not up or just barely peeking up above the horizon as you get ready to go. Maybe picking up anybody who's going to be coming with you, because the one thing we're not going to have here is travel companions, but I guess that's where you guys come in, or where I come in for you. I think I've, really recognized this ever since, getting up at 3 in the morning, gathering at the church for getting ready for Boy Scout trips. It just always really excited me. Because it feels like you're doing something that you don't normally do. Like, you're in a world you're not normally in. Like, sure, every once in a while I'd stay up late, be watching Adult Swim or something like that, but it was pretty rare to be out and about, seeing my friends at these hours. It felt like an adventure, is what I'm saying. And by the way, do not expect necessarily super articulate thoughts from me, because this is going to be as close to unedited as I can get it. This is going to be an American long haul. I'm sorry, I just felt like I needed to nerd out and reference the predecessor to this franchise. But if I can remember what mouse buttons I bound my turn signals to, there we go. I always get it wrong the first time. There's a recruitment agency, but we don't need that right now. What I've always loved about this game that keeps it interesting is that it's not just the driving. I mean, you definitely are here for the driving, but there's also a business sim aspect where you're constantly growing your fleet, growing your business, and just sort of letting it bloom. Like I said, this is not going to be the most articulate thing, but as we come into this industrial lot, we can find out just what it is we're going to be hauling. I've already pre-picked one out, and that's going to be this one, a yard truck. And now, the cargo may not be anything special, but what is special is the route. This is a 1,951-mile journey from Yakima, Washington, all the way down to Dallas, Texas. And all of this is completely new stuff to me. Like, I've never had a lot of these states before. Now look, this is nearly 2,000 miles at $75 and change per mile. So we're going to be making almost $150,000 off of this, and this is actually a pretty early save ever since I lost my main campaign from years ago. So this is going to be a big deal in growing the business. But we don't have to worry about any of that. This is a chill session. And all it really is an excuse to watch the incredibly detailed and well-researched landscapes roll by and just sort of vibe with ourselves. Now what we need to do is make our way around. Look, we got the little guy standing by the guard post. Why is this place so secure? I've never seen a lot like this before in this game. But then again, I've also never seen a lot in this game. I'm also debating whether I should, for atmosphere, turn off the GPS in the bottom right corner and just use the one on the display. Now, what I really need is a vehicle with greater horsepower, but this is a fairly light load compared to some of what I've done, so we should be okay. I'm not used to this, because when I got this game back in 2016, I was really excited for it after Euro Truck Simulator. I had a really sprawling logistics company. I had like dozens and dozens of trucks, a huge number of garages, and at some point that save was lost. I'll explain a little bit more about how this game is different once we get on the road, because it'll be pretty readily apparent if it wasn't already. Let's back it up. And there we go. I play a lot of simulator games. I tend to get really into these job sims, where you can just zone out and do the job, where you can grow your skills, businesses. It's a constant sense of progression while doing something that's repetitive, yes, but also relaxing. There we are. And this presents in a number of ways, too, whether it's something like DCS, where it's more violent and military, where it's more of a game in addition to a simulator, or whether it's this, where the gaming aspects are the business, and it's really just an excuse to chill. Okay, now here we have our first challenge. I am not very good at this stuff. We need to take a tight turn while making sure that we don't clip the wall with this trailer. And that's what I love about this type of sim, is that it's very much engaging while still being chill. It's got that right balance, but I think I don't feel confident in making this turn this way, so I'm gonna come around and do a turn in this open area. There are certain turns in these games where I think, like, wow, people are crazy to attempt this, but they do it. It's certainly possible to make some pretty sharp turns. I just don't have the confidence or the skill for that. Now we're going to execute a skillful 700-point turn. Make sure we don't break the pallets of apple boxes. And let's just drag this thing around. Probably not good for it, but will be penalized depending on the amount of damage to the cargo. Wow, this is a really annoying turn, but it should be much easier from this angle. Let's straighten ourselves out as much as possible. See, the cab can make it easily, but the trailer needs a little bit more time to adjust, and we made it. It's a little bit tedious in the beginning and at the end, but once you're on the road, that's when things really take off. That's when you can bring it up to 60, 70, put on cruise control, and just kind of contemplate. Maybe have a little nap while you're at it. That's a joke. Now, we're here waiting at a red light, but for as much as it makes sense for there to be nobody on the road at 5:30 in the morning, this game is modded. I still have the tweak I did to the config file all the way back when I made the Night Drive video years ago, and so It's no longer the eternal night, that's been disabled, but the traffic is still at a minimum. Now, I would like it if I had a little bit more than what there's going to be. There's not going to be no traffic, but there's not going to be very much. The thing is, though, on default settings, the traffic is a huge headache. In fact, there can even be times, at least from my memory, where it's completely locked up and you have to pretty much close the game and re-enter in order to remove everything. But here we are, setting off. The light rays coming in over the trees. The morning is ours. And we are just getting started. Now, it may seem unnecessary for a truck sim to have graphics that are this good, that are this subtle in the way they present. But think about the appeal of a road trip. Right now, I am getting that early to rise, getting ready for a long journey feeling. And a big part of that is the lighting, because I think we get these feelings from how we felt the first time we experienced them. And in this case, it's reminding me of setting out on those Boy Scout trips. The subtlest things can trigger it. It's like how a smell can make you think of a place or a time. One of the biggest shames of this game is the fact that, for as pretty as it is, and for as many detailed environments as there are, we are gonna have to keep our eyes on the road for the most part. But you guys can glance around a bit more than I can. Oh, that is a massive row of... Are those transformers up there? Some kind of power substation. Massive farms to our left. And our right. Look at that. I feel like a game like this would be really good with something like... I bet it supports Track IR. I know it supports VR, but I don't really particularly feel like hooking all that up right now. Especially for such a long journey. I just think it's really cool how it could very easily have just been playing the same roads over and over again in a loop. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what American Long Haul was like back in the day. But they really understood that, no, if this is going to be American Truck Simulator, the other part of this game needs to be about exploring America. And so it is. You can drive through cities at points, you're not always on the interstates, and all those landmarks are there. You can drive through national parks and past monuments. I mean, they really put a lot into researching these things, and it's appreciated. Sorry, guy, I just screwed up on the left of me. You know what? I think for the sake of immersion, I am going to get rid of the side GPS. There we go. Never mind. Don't worry about the wobbling truck. Hope nobody's seen Final Destination recently. I hate being near trucks and traffic, especially since, you know, I recently visited a Midwestern state, and it sucked driving on the interstate because it's all trucks. Because this is where trucks are really used for logistics and not just in a limited capacity like they are here. And they just form walls along the highways. Super scary to be near them. Especially when you consider that trucking is a dangerous job. Like, not only are you hauling all this weight at all this speed, with so much unpredictability on the road, I mean, it's not at all as controlled as air traffic, but there's also the fact that truckers are insanely overworked. Like, there's rules, pretty strict rules, about how many hours they can be on the road and such, but realistically, their deadlines force them to bend those rules. And so a lot of them are on stimulants, a lot of them are sleep deprived, and it leads to the whole thing being much less safe than it could be. Look at that. Passing over a... I almost called it a boat lot. That would be a harbor, right? And actually from here it almost looks enclosed, but I can't really see that. Can't really do much more of a glance. Oh, we're going a little fast. The GPS tells us the speed limit, but I'm so not used in this game to using the regular speedometer. There's a tight turn up ahead. For some reason, I've always been fascinated by these structures. Those areas at an interchange where you're going under multiple highway bridges. I think I've been fascinated by them ever since, like, 20-something years ago. My family and I were driving down to Florida to go to Disney World, and when you enter Virginia, there's like a huge interchange like this. And so here we are in the night, I'm super tired, and I'm just looking through the front windshield from the back of the car, and I'm seeing all these crisscrossing bright white, like, curved bridges in the night, all lit up by the lights around them. It was super otherworldly. But even though we've got traffic at a minimum, looks like we got ourselves a convoy. You know what? I will happily join that for a little while. I mean, we're not in any rush. Our stuff is due on Friday. This is an estimated 33-hour trip. We're already a little while into it. I'm thinking that we can take our time, because it's Tuesday now. It's Tuesday morning. And even though this is an urgent delivery, which means we get a bonus for getting it there quickly, it's still, like, we've got time. It's not super arcadey in that it's like, okay, you need to be pedal to the metal the entire time. You still have time to do it safely. It just means you can't do a whole bunch of sightseeing and spend too much time at the motels. But man, the way the sun just falls on these cliffs as we pass them by. The part of America I most want to see, and I've talked about this before on the channel, is the Pacific Northwest. I mean, maybe I'm just predisposed to it by things like the Goonies and Gravity Falls, but it seems like a great area. Picking up the pace a little bit. I don't even have to look at the GPS to know there's a speed limit change because the AI traffic will pick up immediately, but I'm content to keep it in the right lane. I mean, if I were playing more casually, I would probably go in like 70 the whole way. I don't quite know if I have traffic violations turned off. I may or may not. I'm still going to observe traffic rules as much as I can. Oh wait, without the GPS enabled on the side, is it going to tell us when we have to pull into a way station? I imagine it's got to, right? Or we'll at least hear the sound cue. Oh, look at those hills up there. Wow, these are going to be some curvy, winding roads. Kind of nervous about that, I'm not going to lie. I'm actually grateful in this moment that our load isn't too heavy, all things considered. I mean, it looks like, you know, we're carrying a trailer with this huge vehicle on the back, but, you know, it's nothing compared to having a full load of, like, cargo in a box, or especially having like a huge tanker. Stuff like this always tends to slow things down. Ooh, viewpoint. Exit half mile. We certainly do have a view from up here, but I'm afraid to take my eyes off the road for more than a second. One of my favorite pieces of world building in media is in the movie Logan, which is supposed to take place in like the near future, and they have self-driving trucks that do away with the cab entirely, and they're literally just like a box on wheels moving down the highway. But we can stop for just a moment. It looks like we could sleep here as well if we wanted. But no. We're just doing a little pass-by, is all. This is so cool. It's so cool that they've included stuff like this. Absolutely beautiful. The depth of field on the landscape stretching off into the horizon. I would love to know on a technical level how all this works, because, you know, in this game, they have very tight control over what you see. After all, you can only see what you can see from the roads. And so I wonder how much of this landscape is actually real, is fully rendered, and how much is just like a 2D texture on a wall, or what. Actually, the way it comes off, like, on the curve like this sort of reminds me of the Montauk Lighthouse. They have a similar thing where the road just sort of curves at the end of the island, and there's a second curve immediately after it for if you're stopping to get out. Is my voice all raspy already? Wow, that's early in the video. It feels that way. I'm not sure how it's coming out. One of the most common comments I get is like, why is your voice different compared to a few years ago? And the answer is it's due to a number of factors. People often think like that I just got a new mic. The real answer to that is I've been using the exact same mic. I used it from the beginning of the channel right up until like October 2023 when it developed like a problem where it wouldn't take AC power anymore. So that mic still works, but I basically replaced it with like an upgraded version of pretty much the same thing. The mic has changed very little. I was using a Zoom H4n field recorder, and now I use a Zoom H6. But no, the real reason is it's literally just confidence. It's confidence in speaking, where, because I am a quiet person. Like I probably talk more in a video than I had my entire life up until the time I started doing YouTube. So that was part of it, was just finding the spot. And also, like, I've kind of learned that everything affects voice. Everything from whether I've eaten to whether I've had anything to drink. I always have a big mug of water beside me when I record. To even sitting position can be a big deal. Even the time of year. It changes depending on time of year because of the humidity in the room and the temperature. It's one of the reasons why readings, for as much as I love having the stockpile of readings, they're some of my favorite videos after they're said and done. But I hate recording them because I'm bad at them. I legitimately do not have a talent for readings. I am constantly having to retake lines. You should see, one of these days I'm going to show a project file for the readings. It looks like somebody shredded ribbons and tossed them on the floor. There are so many cuts. Let's bring her up. Really, the traffic in front of me are my cruise control. Actually, we're encountering an ideal amount of traffic, surprisingly. I mean, I've only just recently started playing this again because I got a bunch of the DLCs on sale. But up until this point, I really haven't been seeing, like, there have been times where I saw, like, no traffic. But this is just the right amount. The kind that makes me feel like I'm not totally alone out here, but there's still life. And I'm not constantly getting stuck in it. Which, this game, I do think by default, it trends that way. Like, a lot of the time, it's more of an annoyance than anything, because I want to move. I want to move. There's a reason people get so impatient in traffic, and while I do think it's kind of ridiculous to act on that in real life, this is a video game. I want to feel the open road. I want to be moving. Actually, the thing that caused me to look into this game some more is the fact that apparently they're adding regular cars, and they're even adding buses that you can do as part of your business. And I think that'll be a lot of fun transporting passengers over long distances. Now, granted, it's this game. It might be a while before we actually see that stuff, but it was enough to reinvigorate my interest. Part of the reason is because I was debating getting a wheel. Right now I'm just playing on mouse and keyboard, as you can see from the steering wheel movements. But you know, I do want to learn to drive in the near future. And I've only like driven a car once before, you know, just like around a parking lot and stuff. And I was very aware of how not in control I was. I think, you know, just like with my voice, I just need to gain the confidence. And I thought one way of doing that might be to try simulators, you know, with a wheel. But anyway, we can bypass this way station. We got our answer. We got our answer on how these are going to work. It's just going to be a pop-up and a sound. But here we are. We're in the, this is the Pacific Northwest that I picture. The mountains and the trees. Oh, this is beautiful. I don't know if this game has seasons. I don't think it does. But I would love to see it all in the fall. This is a 2,000-mile journey, by the way. There will be periods of silence. But I'm always thinking of something to say, don't you worry. What makes it difficult to comment on things like this, and it's why I never really have problems commentating on just random things in most games, but in these more podcasty style things, especially Crime Scene Cleaner, I always struggle. Because it's like, okay, just think of anything to talk about, and then I'm like, okay, but no games or movies or media or anything like that you would normally engage with your audience with, because, you know, you don't want to flashbang somebody with spoilers in the middle of something like this. So you're doing this right now, but to me, when this is really going to come alive, when it's really going to get fun, and my favorite part of this game is when night falls. I love the nights in ATS. I love going down the highway, either alone or maybe with a distant set of taillights in front of us. But we'll get more into that as we get there. Actually, what time is it now? Do we have a diegetic clock in here? I'm not sure. I'm only looking in glances because I don't want to take my eyes off the road. I would hate to wreck this thing early on. By the way, if I cut this correctly, the reason I just swerved and jittered a bunch was because I started talking, and I got like a scratch in the back of my throat and I had to choke down some water. But anyway, the reason why I like this route so much is not just because it's long, 2,000 miles, but also because it's going to show us like a variety of biomes. I mean, it's kind of already showed us a variety of biomes. Because think about it, we're moving from the Pacific Northwest all the way down to the middle of Texas. So we'll have forests and fields and deserts. Maybe even a couple of mountains thrown in. I did get Colorado. I want to do some driving in Colorado. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that here. I do think this is a really great way to wind down with recording, though, you know, something that's minimal editing and stress-free to record. Because, man, have I been swamped lately. Like, I always try to keep, like, a strategic reserve of finished videos, because I want to be able to, at a moment's notice, take, like, a week or even 2 weeks off, and what that means is having, like, 14 videos finished and ready to go. That's recorded, edited, everything. And I kind of work off of, like, a point system, where I figure, okay, if I finish editing a complete video, that's 1 point. If I finish recording a complete video, that's 1 point. And as long as I get at least 2 points a day, I will maintain an upload schedule without losing any of my backlog. And if I do more than that, I'll increase it and have more days I can take off. And I've been really struggling to, like, push forward, especially since I took a week off fairly recently, and then had a period even more recently where, like, I wasn't able to work at 100%. So I'm kind of back there now. I'm kind of at the point where I've got more videos than upload days. And I'm also limited in, like, okay, some videos I've got to do, but I know they're not really going to get the views, so I need to pair them with something else, and it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm basically creating more than one video per day at this stage. And so this is a nice way to just kind of keep on top of things. But then there's also the other problem, which is having more videos than there are days. Because if I accept, like, a Steam key from a developer, which happens pretty often, I kind of feel like, okay, well, this game is probably just releasing, so I want to get that video out close to release. Oh, but then that screws up, like, this slot where, like, I need a heavy hitter to come out. And so it moves things around. It definitely moves things around and means that I always have to be recording and making new stuff, even if I have that backlog. Like when Voices of the Void is airing, I might have a video ready to go out tomorrow, just a throwaway, but I know that it needs to be Voices of the Void, so I'm recording and editing this tonight anyway. How do I, wait, I don't remember the control to, there we go, F3. We missed it that time, but what we just heard was either one of my loan payments going out, or one of our drivers completing a job and making money. So right now, on the business side of this, I have a very low-level garage. It's 3 trucks. One of them is me, and there's 2 employees who are out driving their own trucks. I also have like a $500,000 loan that I took out in order to start all this and build the fleet, which is currently being slowly but surely paid off. In increments of literally like just under $6,000 a day. But you know what? The rewards for these jobs are so high, it doesn't even really matter. Look at this big open highway, a water park off to the side, which, nope, this is a just-in-time delivery. We cannot fall victim to temptations. So I'm just gonna put this up to 70 miles an hour and change, and keep it on cruise control. That's the thing, is that, so the way the everyday upload schedule kind of started was back in October 2023. I was like, okay, I need a backlog so that I can work on the Halloween special. And at that time, the upload schedule was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 videos a week, and if I had something extra, maybe something on Sunday. And around that October, I was doing so much work in preparing for the Halloween special that I realized, like, dude, I have so many videos, there's no reason why I can't release every day. And you know what? It's October, it's spooky season, so why shouldn't I? And what ended up happening was, by the end of October, I was like, you know what? This is making good money, and I can keep this up, so why stop? I've still got this huge backlog, and I reached the point where whenever I had downtime, I didn't think, oh, I can go do something else. I thought, ooh, I can get even more work done. And I've kind of put myself into that mindset for life, maybe. Because now, whenever I have time to relax, I'll do one of 2 things. I will sleep, or I will get something extra done. And it's definitely rewarded me, but it's also broken my brain a bit, because I can't not work. I can't not work. A lot of the time, when I have downtime, I just come back to this. And that's not a complaint. It's entirely on me. I don't need to do all this. But I just can't handle silence anymore. But I guess that comes off of the polar opposite, because after I graduated high school, I pretty much did nothing for years. Like, I was just, living at home, playing video games, no money, no nothing. Eventually I started working with a friend doing like theater work, where we would just kind of go around to theaters around the place, and we would offer our services, either recording and editing trailers for them, or just recording the show and putting it on DVDs to sell. And that made something, a little bit, but it was definitely a gig job. And I probably bring in more in a bad month on this channel than I did in the several years doing that. I still do shows occasionally when they come up, but I've definitely... It was a cool thing at first, but I've definitely outgrown my taste for it. Because it's a lot of hours standing up, standing around, setting up, setting down. And in the end, the reward was not nearly as much as doing this. I will say, though, one of the biggest road trip opportunities came up as a result of that, because there was a guy we used to do a lot of work, like consistent work for around here, and he moved to Florida, but he actually called us because he was putting on a show down there. And it was like a much bigger operation than anything that had ever been done up here with him. And so we were like, all right, you know what? We're losing money on this, but it's an excuse for a trip. It's a trip to Florida that pays partly for itself. So we went down there, and we made the entire trip in a Volkswagen Jetta with no working AC in the middle of the summer. And so that part kind of sucked. But it's stuff like that. It's the experience. It's the little details that make a road trip memorable. Like, even right now, I don't know whether to think of this from the perspective of that heat, or from the safety bubble perspective of we've got the AC. We can see that it's a desert, it's probably pretty warm out there, but in here, we're safe and comfortable. Oh, I'm going to have so much more to say about the safety bubble concept once night falls. And depending on how this goes, we may even have 2 nights. Because we are going to have to sleep at some point. Speaking of, we should check on that. Wow, we're actually going to have to sleep fairly soon. We've still got another 26 hours in the journey. How far have we come? Still got 1,500 miles to go. But that's kind of crazy. We've already come 400 miles. Right, let's put you away again. We want maximum visibility here. Look. There's those amber waves of grain. I've really got to revisit Euro Truck Simulator 2 at some point. Maybe I can even make a video on that. I don't have anywhere near as many DLCs. I haven't played it since, like, pre-2016. But I believe, since they're the same engine, that these games have grown in parallel. Like, usually when there's a simulation update to ATS, ETS also gets that update. And so it's really cool to see these things get such long-term support. In a few months, American Truck Simulator is going to be 10 years old. That is wild. And Euro Truck is like, what, 12, 13 years old at this point? Even more? And here they are still getting updates, still expanding. Because you don't need anything more. These don't need a sequel every 2 or 3 years. I really like that they've just grown as platforms. It may seem like a DLC quest where there's like tons and tons of DLC and you could potentially spend a lot, but they're on sale frequently. You could also spend a little. I feel like I've gotten a lot for my money out of this game. And I think with a simulator like this, you're already catering to a fairly small crowd, although simulators have done a great job of expanding their audience recently. But there's also, you gotta know that your audience is going to be spending their time on this. They're gonna get their money's worth. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as DCS with its like $80 like per plane, another $50 or $60 per map. But even with that, you get your money's worth. You're going to be putting a lot of hours into those modules. Now, as for the simulation that they're built around, that's a story for another day, but this isn't a rant about DCS video. Whoop. It's a rant about Roadblocks video. This is something cool that this game does, where there's just these little obstacles that get thrown up at random every once in a while where a roadway can be closed off. It's like I said earlier, you know, it's the kind of thing where you zone out for long periods, just doing a repetitive task of going down the highway and looking at the sights. But sometimes you have to use your brain to get out of a sticky situation. And it can be stuff as simple as that. Or a tight corner, or having to wait in traffic. Just little things to break up the monotony. But in a game like this, the monotony doesn't feel like monotony. You know, a couple months ago, I visited Elster, my girlfriend. That was the farthest west I've ever been. I mean, I've been pretty far south, not so far north. I want to expand that. That's something I really want to do in the near future, is just travel more. And I feel like I finally have the means and the video backlog to do it. But prior to that, the furthest west I had ever been was a road trip to Chicago. And making that trip from New Jersey to Illinois, let me tell you one thing. There is a lot to fear in the future of our country. We're in a period of a lot of change, not just here, but the world over. But one thing you don't have to be afraid of is ever running out of corn. Because the entire surface of the continental United States is covered in corn. Covered. Absolutely saturated. We have too much corn, is what I'm saying. Incidentally, it was like a fever dream because I also made that trip around the time I was briefly addicted to Farming Simulator 2015. Those are days I'm not sure I want to revisit. Okay, are you going to tell me at the last second that I need to pull into this way station? Oh wait, how's our fuel? You know what? Moments past, I was going to say this would be not a bad time to gas up, but we'll get the next one. I've always heard that it's best to gas up when you're at about 50%, because on these long-haul trips, you just never know when you're going to get another one. Idaho Falls, Salt Lake. So we know we're in Idaho somewhere. If the church steeple didn't clue you in. There's just so much vibrance in the world, you know? Sometimes you pass by suburbs with the noise walls. Sometimes there's like all this industry to the side, and there's all these like fake companies and logos and names. Like you see that stuff everywhere, and it's cool. It's like consistent world building. Even if it is just for the sake of giving you something to look at. Like, you know, you might see... Ooh, wait, what is that? Are we in Greece? What is going on up on that hill? I mean, that up there looks like some kind of convention center. You know what that sort of reminds me of? The RV Hall of Fame in Indiana. Not sure if I talked about this. This was part of the Chicago trip, because my brother and I were being driven there by our aunt and uncle, because we were going to see our cousin, and they had hyped us up beforehand. They really gassed us up on the RV Hall of Fame. And we're driving out there. I'm like half asleep. We're going through just open fields for miles in Indiana. And suddenly this noise erupts from the front seat. Don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it! And they're all pointing to the left. And off in the distance in the fields is this one lone huge building. The RV Hall of Fame. It was really funny. And later I went and looked it up, and I saw that it had a helipad. There was a helipad there. Imagine you're some big shot in the RV community, and you show up to an event, a convention, in a helicopter. Right, but for the first time, we are having to stop at a weigh station. Make sure we're not doing any illegal smuggling. Make sure our weight matches up with before and after we've been weighed. So we just gotta wait for this guy to move on. See, for us, this takes much less time. With this, we just kind of have to pull up, and the inspection is fairly instant. I wonder if that's actually a real thing, by the way. Like, if drivers actually have some instrumentation in their cabin where, like, I guess it knows where everybody is or where they are along their route and informs them and makes decisions about when they're going to be inspected. We can take this thing up to like 70 now. And I think this would be a good time to do it. Not too much of a curve in the road. Not too much traffic either. So that's the one weird thing is that, you know, I'm in New York and haven't traveled nearly as much as I would like. And so I've never had that quintessential American experience of driving over desert roads. I think that's why this game started with the Southwest. I think the starting states when this came out were like California, Nevada, and I think they might have added Arizona as like a free DLC shortly after release. And it's because trucks in the desert, man. Trucks in the desert. You have to have that piece of Americana. If that wasn't there from the start, this game would have no identity. And it might seem strange to say that a simulator like this needs to have an identity, but it really does. To continue my thought from earlier, you know, you'll see a billboard for a company, and then every once in a while you'll see a box truck go by with its logo emblazoned on it. Oh, speaking of, like, this game has changed a lot since I last played, and apparently you can even own your own trailers and make a little bit more money, have your own paint jobs and stuff on those. You can even paint your truck however you want, and I've always been very utilitarian when it comes to this game, but I'm quite sure that I got a bunch of skins with this DLC pack, so maybe we'll check those out. Look at that, we can see the agriculture down there, we can see the sprinklers that slowly move along the field. And it may be a trucking game, but there is such a wide variety of assets that need to be made for it. I remember just recently, I read a post on Reddit where somebody was talking about driving through the desert at night, and they talked about the experience of Las Vegas and how otherworldly it is. Because they described, you know, you're driving, the sun's going down, and before you know it, since there's nothing out there in the desert, you find that it's just total darkness all around you. Like, all you have is your headlights on the road, and other than that, it's like you're floating in the void. But after a while, you know, a long while of driving, you see a tiny speck on the horizon. And it grows and grows over a course of, you know, like over an hour, until before you know it, you're on the strip. you're surrounded by lights, but because it's at night and everything is neon and multicolored, it's almost like you found yourself in a field of bioluminescent jellyfish at the bottom of the ocean. Like a very surreal experience. And I wonder if it would be like that to do that in this game. Because I've been through Vegas and I sort of understood the sentiment, you know, been through Vegas in this game. But that was a long time ago. That was like 9 years ago. With the way this has changed, maybe it's even more like that. Look at that, it's giving us speed limit 80. Now, I'm pretty sure in real life, and it may be an option in this game, commercial trucks have a speed limiter installed that prevents them from going above like 65 or something like that. Past the nearby way station? I hope so, because I just got up to 75. You know, I'm looking at this car in front of me, and you can very clearly tell, I think, that it's not operating on the same physics that I am. I mean, of course, it doesn't have to have all the same bounciness as we do, but it really seems to glide in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, something about it doesn't seem consistent with the rotation of its wheels. We can hear our driver start to get a bit sleepy. If we check that, yeah, we definitely... I had forgotten all about the need for gas, but we also need to sleep. It's currently 4 p.m. We need to keep an eye out. I'm gonna actually bring that GPS back up, because we do need to find a spot to rest. Still another 1,300 miles to go. I think the longest trip I had ever made in this game was like 900 and change. So this is a big difference. I mean, what we've done so far, like 600-700 miles, that used to be like where it capped out. This used to be a long job because all I had was the West Coast. And for a while, that was all that was in the game. But it seems like we're coming up on a city with some weird parallax between the buildings. There's gotta be something soon, right? For as fast as we are, other traffic likes to move faster. Oh, exit only. Which is why, you know, being a truck, I usually like to keep to the right lane. Now you'll see down there, the road is turning yellow beneath us and everything surrounding us turns gray. The reason for that is because this is all unexplored territory for us. All road we've never driven on before. Hey, Vegas is right up ahead! Or is it? You know what, let's check the map. Let's find out where the heck we are. This is Salt Lake City. What are you smoking? Vegas is a long way away. But let's use this opportunity to figure out where we can gas up without going too far out of our way. It's gonna be a little while yet. You know what? Maybe we'll want to get off right here in Salt Lake City. That'll give us the opportunity to do a little bit of different city driving. So if we come over to here, that'll guide us in. Only problem is I'm absolutely horrible at reading the GPS for where I actually need to get off when everything is so cluttered like this, but looks like it's guiding us there anyway. I don't know how it does it. Like, it's simultaneously giving me readouts for where I placed my marker and where the general job ends up. Part of the strategy of this game, though, is the fact that you know, it'll have, like, the GPS-decided optimal route, But if you've got the experience, if you've got the know-how, you can plan your own route that is potentially more efficient. How's our cargo still doing? I was really worried for a second that I was going to turn around and find out that I lost it somewhere. When you blazed a 700-mile trail, well, that's a lot of places to look. Here we are, the sun's starting to go down. I'm just glad we're not going to be sleeping through the night, because I hate it when that happens. To me, that's missing out on the best part. In fact, I'm sorry I didn't go to sleep earlier so that we could see the sun go down. But maybe we'll have the opportunity tomorrow. Remember, it's still Tuesday and we're not due until Friday. And we're making very, very good headway. That's what I say. I took too long on that, I'm sorry. Whoa, sucks to be you, buddy. How did that happen? Did a transformer jump over you, bounding over the bridges? I mean, I knew you could come upon accident scenes in this game, but I've never seen one like that. Do you want to hear about the worst car accident I ever seen? Seriously though, this game needs a Large Marge DLC. Whether you can get picked up by Large Marge, or whether you can be Large Marge, I don't know. Can we make a right on red? There's nothing saying we can't. And I don't see no cops around. Don't drop, don't drop, don't drop. Look at that, the flag billowing in the breeze, the trucks moving on the horizon, and even further back, the mountains. This is such a nice game. It's the lighting that makes me feel the drowsiness, I think. So do you guys not bury sensors around here in the ground to let you know when there's just like a big friggin' truck waiting to go and nobody else on the road? Maybe if we inch up. That'll make it go faster. Really, thank you. Glad we understand each other. I guess we're not welcome in the regular gas station. This game totally will let you pull up to the regular pumps, but the truck pumps are certainly preferable. I don't know if full-on stops like this were in the game when last I played. I've seen a couple of them since I've been back, but I don't really remember them being a thing. Maybe part of it is the fact that I'm in, like, newer states. There we go, we're filling up. It's already 6:30. Let's make sure we don't clip these pumps on our way out. Trailer awareness is a big deal. And we can just slot in right beside you there. I feel like there's such a sense of, like, community and camaraderie to trucking. I mean, that's what the multiplayer is all about. You know, you can have, like, the CB mod or whatever and just kind of form a convoy and, you know, have that kinship on the road where you're kind of keeping each other company while doing something so monotonous. There's a sense of, like, yeah, we're sort of in this alone together. 4:30 a.m., come on. You didn't need to sleep, like, that was like 10 hours of sleep. We're taking a nap during the day. We're taking a nap during the day so that we can get more night. Because as it stands, we're only going to get a couple hours. The sun's going to be coming up by the time we even get out of Salt Lake. I'm really annoyed. I really wish you could choose how long you sleep for. Look at that. There's already a little bit more on the bar there. And we're stuck at this light again. Go figure. This pisses me off so much. There's really, like, we can already see the sun coming up. We're definitely going to be going for a nap early, but... Alright, well, at least we get the experience of starting a road trip early again. This time with a little bit more darkness to spare. I'm hoping we can get onto the road just in time to at least see the headlights doing their thing. Because night road trips, at least as a passenger, are always the most atmospheric. I get that for a driver, they're probably a lot more nerve-wracking. Green light. Especially when it comes to animals, you know? Like, it's one thing to pay attention to the fixed road there, and you have signage to guide you in, but animals are a bit more unpredictable, and they're extremely dangerous. I mean, having an injured, scared, and kicking deer coming through your windshield, or a moose that'll just, like, flatten you. I actually read a Reddit post just now while I was alt-tabbed out saying that trucking companies train their drivers to hit them head-on, and it's going to hurt, it's going to suck, but the point is to not swing around and have the trailer do some maneuvers. Okay, can we move around you? There is a lane open. Wow, it's been all these hours and that trailer, that accident, has still not been moved. Oh, looks like there's some power lines down. That is a tremendous amount of detail for a passing incident. Something that always impresses me is just how reflective these signs actually are. Like, it seems like they start reacting long before where your headlights actually reach. But that's true in real life as well. In fact, when I had more time, I used to go on like long walks in the middle of the night, you know, leaving at like 2 a.m. and not coming back until sunup. And one thing that always struck me was that like I would see the signs light up way before I could even hear a car coming. And they must have changed over the years, because I've been in a couple areas where they have like older signs out, and they are not nearly as reflective. In fact, I've seen some of them that look almost black at night, even in full headlights. I don't know, when you take some of these things we take for granted away, you realize just how much like thought and engineering goes into like everything that's in front of you on the road. And I mean, it's pretty much the most dangerous thing your average person does in their day-to-day, so it only makes sense that we've refined a lot of the details. We've had a long time to do it and a lot of data to do it with. I know this game has a thing where if you have traffic enforcement enabled, you can get hit with fines if a police car is in the crowd and they see you doing something illegal. Like, there is an element of it's not illegal if you don't get caught in this game. I'm pretty sure the vehicle itself reports speeding, but as far as, like, you know, doing crazy things in traffic, I think cops do need to see you. Something I've always wanted, even from back in the day, is the ability to actually get pulled over. You know what? This is a simulator, so let's actually simulate this. Make it so that they pull you over, you have to give your license and registration, and just make it a whole big thing. I'm half joking. I do think it would be kind of funny. Having to get on the phone with insurance after an accident. These light posts, the kind of thing you see along the interstate, these have always been crazy to me, because they're so impossibly tall. It's like, do they really need to be that big? Look Look at that, the morning fog hanging low over the fields, the rusting barns. It's so creepy. And I've heard it said that Europe is creepy because it's old. America is creepy because it's huge, and you definitely get that impression from this and Euro Truck. It's one of the reasons I want to return to it. I mean, I wonder if Euro Truck has some of that old creepy. It's weird because Europe has a lot of the most modern stuff, and at the same time, its oldest is way older than anything we have here. One thing that's changed with this game is the fact that the headlights really seem to just die if it's not totally dark out. Like, I can't see anything right now, even if it still seems fairly dark. Look at that, it's giving a speed limit 80. Am I gonna end up passing you guys? Looks like it. Come on, little car, you're being embarrassed getting passed by a semi. And meanwhile, what are you? Oh, you're a double trailer. I had forgotten about that. That's something they added at some point where, like, these special loads, there's double and even triple trailers. If I was having trouble getting this thing around a corner, imagine what it'd be like doing one of those. Those jobs do pay more, but I think my fines would end up far surpassing that. Oh, another accident scene. Let's slow down. Ah, look at that. It's a car fire. We can see the foam from them putting it out. But that's what I'm saying. There's just so much detail, so many little events to break it up. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've even seen accidents where they were landing like a rescue helicopter on the highway. And we've gotten lucky so far. Sometimes it's been a small diversion. A couple of times we've had to shift over a lane. But I think there are accidents in this where, like, it literally just chokes off an entire interstate, and you can have to go far out of your way. Scipio. We've even got these small little off-the-highway farm towns in this game. Look at that, people gathering outside their homes, a place under construction. And the fire department responding to a tree falling over. Maybe it was struck by lightning in the night. It's these weird specific scenarios that you wouldn't even think of for a game like this if you weren't these developers. Now this is a vibe I've not really considered. Overcast morning in the desert where it all just looks so gray, almost monochromatic. Desert dreary. I had never even thought of that, and already I'm in love with it. We have found Selena. The achievement progress calls this the Beehive State. I believe we're still in Idaho at this moment, but we can check in a bit. I slowed down just a bit too much, I think. Gonna have to swing wide because I don't want this trailer to hit the tree. After all, the fire department have enough problems with that right now. Something else that's cool about this, but that always scares me, is how we can lean our head out the window, you know, to check for traffic coming up behind us in our blind spot, but it enables you to hear, like, the full sound of the engine and the highway. But every time I do it, it makes me think that something else has snuck up on me and is about to crash. Selena City. All these desert towns, they've always got their historic buildings right at the center. I don't see a no right on red sign. Some kind of historical monument that I'd imagine probably exists in real life, knowing this game. Come see the Salina Arena, open 24/7. Western Star Truck Dealer. Now, back in my day, the only manufacturers in this game were Kenworth and Peterbilt. Yeah, it was Peterbilt. So I see we've expanded in that way as well, but the selection of trucks in this was not huge at all at launch, and it actually remained small for quite a while. I think there might be like a Volvo DLC or something, well, I may be thinking of Euro Truck. The thing is, when you play these games, it really strikes you the major difference in infrastructure between the United States and Europe. Because in the US, like, everything is so much bigger. The roads and the trucks themselves. And it's because the US, you know, being newer in a lot of ways, a lot of this was built around the highways and the interstates. We're very much geared towards road traffic. On the one hand, it's kind of cool because you could say it offers a degree of personal freedom, but also, you know, there's all the environmental concerns, there's a lot of waste. And it just makes things a lot harder for people who want to walk, for people who want to do things in their local area, because not only does it mean that everything is geared towards cars and we're using space for it, but it also means that if you want to walk in the suburbs or in a city, well, actually not so much in a city, but in the suburbs, everything is built so far away from you. There's a little tunnel right there. So even if something is close, it's more dangerous to get to it on foot. But let's be real, there's nothing near you on foot. Like, I'm really lucky that I have, like, a pizza place on the corner, you know, at an intersection. But other than that, there's, like, I can't walk to anything. I can't walk to a doctor's appointment. I can't walk to the grocery store. It's just not possible. Not having a car simply isn't an option. Look at that view. I'm trying to take that in while taking this corner. I guess that's why the guardrail is there. Yep, we have officially entered the desert. We should be in, like, southern Idaho now. In fact, once I get up to speed, say a little over 75 miles an hour, let's have a look at our map and find out where exactly we really are. So we've come all the way down from Yakima. That's a pretty fair way. Right now we are in the middle of Idaho. And next we'll be crossing... Oh, look at that! We will actually be crossing through the bottom left corner of Colorado. Neat. This is my first time seeing so much of this game. But it is that personal freedom that I do think is a major legitimate advantage. Ugh, that canyon, don't look down. Whoa, even more don't look down. Ugh, but look at the road. That's a very good reason not to look down, is to look at the road. This is an argument against the personal freedom of vehicles. Fallible humans behind them. But, you know, I recently flew. It's fast, it's convenient, it's expensive, but with gas prices, you know, maybe it's kind of a wash, because you also have to, if it's a multi-day trip, you have to pay for hotels along the way. But the personal freedom is something you just can't get from any other mode of travel. being able to go with distractions. You know, if you have the time, it is a huge gift to be able to go off to the side of the road and see the world's blankiest blank. To be able to say, oh, that thing in the distance looks so cool, let's go see what that is. To take your time. To say, this area is awesome, let's spend some time here and explore. You can't do that with a plane. At least with a train, you can look out the window and maybe have something to see for certain portions of the journey. That's a piece of infrastructure I've not often seen, but it's cool, and it's one of those things where it's just cool that they thought of it. A runaway truck ramp, so if a truck's brakes are malfunctioning, you can run up there and bleed off some of your speed rather than running downward and building it up, unable to stop. It's such a crazy feeling how different like airports are too, how each one kind of has its own culture and atmosphere. Like, I'm somebody who has not done a lot of air travel, but even I've been able to notice it. Because over the spring, you know, I flew to Cedar Rapids. I was picked up from there, and then we drove the last leg of the journey. But what a culture difference between the 3 different airports I was at. Because I started from LaGuardia, and that was nuts. It was packed, crowded with people. TSA was fast and efficient, but, you know, very unfriendly. And it's just a machine that keeps on grinding and moving, and it's such a pain, and it's super stressful. Now, Chicago, I didn't really get the full experience of, I admit, because, you know, you don't have to go through TSA there, it's a connecting flight, but the place is huge. Like, the place is so big, and it's a crazy piece of infrastructure, because it's this huge terminal in the middle of a sea of, like, 20 runways. It's nuts to look at. I took some video from the window as, like, we were taxiing. I couldn't believe it. When I looked at this thing on Google Earth, I was like, how is this even gonna work when I was doing research? Like, if you wanted to get out of here, how do you do it? And I think it's underground tunnels. Like, you drive literally under the runways in some places. It's pretty wild when you look out the window and you see your plane is taxiing over a bridge, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I didn't get the full experience of that because I didn't go through TSA. Cedar Rapids, same thing. I just kind of had to leave. But it seemed pretty quiet and chill. It was weird to have such, like, a fully fleshed out airport in the middle of such, Cedar Rapids isn't remote, but it's nothing like what I'm used to. Like, the big cities in the Midwest are just like a medium-sized town here, pretty much. But when trying to leave through Cedar Rapids, what a difference. Because where LaGuardia is run with, like, almost military efficiency, which is, maybe that wording is giving the TSA too much credit. Cedar Rapids, I walk in, there's nobody there. I walk up to the one TSA agent who's just standing there, big smile on his face. "Hi, how's it going?" he says. I couldn't help but laugh. That is not the experience you get in any New York airport, I will tell you that. But it was cool. The guy literally stood there and just, like, walked me through, like, everything that needed to be done. It was such a difference. Whereas at LaGuardia, I'm, like, throwing a million different things into bins, trying to, like, keep up and move things along. I do not like flying, though. I do not like flying whatsoever. I get that statistically it's way, way safer than road travel. Don't care. Do not care in the slightest. But you know what? Not all aviation is created equal also, not by a long shot. Not all aviation is flying out of major airports with air traffic control on jetliners that are well maintained. I mean, small private planes go down all the time, and granted, that's usually because of pilot error. but helicopters held together basically by prayers. I've never ridden in one, and I don't think I ever want to. But the worst I've ever been on was Saba, the Saba landing. See, part of my family comes from the island of Saba in the Caribbean. It's this very small island. It's like 5 square miles or something like that, population 2,000. I've been there twice in my life. And the way you go there is you fly to St. Martin, which is a much bigger tourist spot nearby, and then you get on like this like half-hour, 40-minute flight or something like that to Saba. Now, Saba has the shortest commercial runway in the world, I believe. And it's a volcanic island out there, and so it's just this huge mountain, just this rock jutting up from the sea. And the way you land there is you get on this. There's only one airline that goes there, Win Air, and you get on this small plane. It's a prop plane called the Twin Otter, and it's pretty much just used for stuff like this. Sorry, I cannot think and tell this story at the same time, but basically, the way this landing works is you can try it yourself in one of the flight simulator games. That's what's so cool about having the whole world. It's actually considered like a challenge landing. Basically, they fly towards the mountain and getting lower and lower until if you lean out of your seat and look through the cockpit windows, the whole view is just the side of a mountain, and you are getting closer and closer. And then at the last second, they pull a hard left and touch down really rapidly on the runway. And it breaks over like a couple seconds, and the time, the performance can vary, but the time I went last, I was literally looking out the front, and I saw the runway disappear under the viewport. And the thing is, it's off on a jutting edge of the island. So towards the back of the runway is a cliff, towards the front of the runway is a cliff. You need to be perfect. Do you know what happened when we landed? I watched the end of the runway disappear under the viewport, and the pilots laughed and high-fived. As somebody who doesn't like flying, that was not fun. Not the least bit fun. I'll take a boat next time. Oh, hey, it seems we found ourselves in a town. I managed to distract myself. That's why I feel like having a travel companion is so important. Not only does it make everything more fun, but it allows you to distract yourself. Because boredom is not only boring on the road, it can be a killer. Having somebody with you, well, it keeps you awake. Let's actually take a moment to check the load. Only 1% damage on here, no damage to the trailer, no damage to the cargo. So with still 961 miles to go, we are so far so good. I really just went over the line, rubbernecking. Ooh, cool, there's a junkyard down below. I do really hate going through towns like this, though, the kind where this is where the road goes, but it forces you to slow down so much. And it would be even worse if it was generating the regular amount of traffic. But that's where the planner comes in, you know? That's where being able to set our own waypoints, set our own route, is part of the game. It's just something I've never really particularly engaged with. Oh my god, they even got that detail! The chunks of burnt, destroyed rubber from tires along the sides of the road. Look at that, we've got birds in the sky. I've never really noticed that before. But yeah, if you drive along any interstate, like, the sides are just saturated in destroyed tires. If you're off put by this like jitteriness, I'm sorry. Basically, I'm pressing the 1 key to recenter my view every time I look around too much because a centered view is your best bet for gauging where you are between these lines. We're gonna have to slow down some more. Yes. Montrose. Have we entered Colorado? I'm not sure. Oh yeah, we passed a while back. I must have completely blanked on the sign. Nope. Look at that. We can see the snow-covered mountains in the distance. We're not going there, but I really would love to explore Colorado more fully. Something I'm curious about in this game is what happens when you buy a state that is not connected to other states you own. Oh, can't see the notification. I mean, I imagine we can still fast travel there, but you won't be able to travel out of the state. Will it give you jobs that take you elsewhere? I know in Euro Truck Simulator you can take the ferry to the UK from France. There's a Peterbilt dealership. I'm almost tempted to stop in because this thing needs an engine upgrade, but this is still the early game, and there's a lot of money in the bank right now. And I've realized that what I need for this one isn't an engine upgrade, it's a new truck. A new truck with greater capabilities. Whenever I'm struggling to find something to talk about, my brain always sort of defaults to Urbex stories. This is something that's come up recently in the crime scene cleaner videos. For some reason I've had this one in particular in my head for like a lot of this video, like it's just been in the back there waiting for its moment, and I think now is that time. So, one of my favorite places I've ever explored was this old rec center. And it was right on the water, it was moldy and crumbling and falling apart, but unlike other places I've been, it didn't seem to be all that well traveled. Like, there wasn't really any vandalism or graffiti, and so there was a lot of stuff left behind. I'm talking a lot. It had, you know, tanning beds, which are one of my favorite finds ever. It had exercise machines, you know, treadmills, ellipticals. It had screens, drink machines. It even had a cabinet that was labeled with, like, GameCube and PS2 markers. Unfortunately, no consoles inside. This place was really cool, is what I'm saying. From, like, the stuff that was in it, to the architecture, to the circumstances of the location and its surroundings. And it was actually discovered in, like, a really weird circumstance where I was at a baby shower, and a bunch of us, you know, myself, my brother, cousins, just went walking and decided to have a look around, and we came across this thing and found a way in. So it was a pretty big detour for the day, and we looked around, had a great time, and left. And I would, over the next couple of years, make 2 trips back there. And on the 3rd time, I was like, okay, I don't really have any good video of the inside. Now, all of this is on the channel. All of this is very well documented in pictures and videos. Sorry, my brain just shorts out when I'm taking in the scenery. This is a beautiful area. But anyway, if you want to look this up on the channel, they are the Hangman's Wellness Center for the time we discovered it, and the Hangman's Wellness Center revisited for when I decided I don't have any good video of this, I'm going to do a GoPro walkthrough. That's probably the best documentation I have of it, because the place is a lot more difficult these days. But anyway, this was also the time that I ended up doing it alone. So I was outside, I crept in, and as I was making my way towards an entrance, I heard like a loud crash from inside the gym. Now, the gym is just this attached, like, big metal box to the building, and it is totally pitch dark inside. Like, everywhere else, there's at least some windows, but the gym has none, so there's no natural light getting in, except for in one of the racquetball courts where the ceiling is collapsed, which led to one of my favorite pictures, like, still photos ever. And so I was pretty sure that it came from in there somewhere, especially based on the metallic echo. So I wasn't sure if there was somebody inside, and that's, especially when you're alone, that can be kind of a dangerous situation. So as I crawl through the front door, or not the front door, but, my entrance, I call out, like, is there anybody here? Because I want to know if somebody's going to move or react to it so I can make a decision. And also, you don't want to come upon somebody and surprise them. Other people in exploration are like bears. You don't want to stumble onto them. You want them to know you're coming. If somebody else is coming in, of course, the inverse of that is you want them to not know you're there until you're ready for them to know. So, bit of a problem there, bit of a conflict. But that's neither here nor there. I'm walking in, and it is still totally silent. It's still totally silent, and it didn't just sound like something falling over. On a rainy or overcast day, sometimes water will pool up on a roof, and when the weight gets to be enough, it'll bend down and drop, and that can cause a crashing sound. But it legitimately, I swear I heard, like, hushed whispers and footsteps scampering away as I was approaching. So for me to then enter and hear nothing, that was concerning to me. Because in an abandoned building, when you're walking, tiles and debris, they crunch underfoot, it echoes in the space. You're really loud in a place like this. So I was wondering, like, what the heck is going on here? And I walk around a little bit more, I step into, like, the main entrance area a couple rooms away, and I call out again, is anybody here? And I wait a second, and again, I get no response. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just continue the GoPro walkthrough. I'll keep listening out, I'll keep an ear out. I'm very on edge, but I came here to do something. You never know if you'll get the chance again, so I do it. And I walk around through each of these rooms that I know of. But eventually I come to the hallway to the gym, and I realized that, if there's going to be anybody anywhere at this point, they're going to be in that gym. And that thought creeps me right out, because I know it's pitch black in there. So the thought of people, or even a group of people, who knows how large, just sitting in the darkness, listening to me move around here, because there's no way anybody doesn't know I'm there now that I called out. And just waiting for me to either leave or come to them, that was creepy. So I decide, you know what, I'm not equipped for the gym anyway, I don't really have any strong lights. We're just gonna leave that, because the GoPro's not gonna pick anything up anyway. So I just leave. And as I'm crawling out from my entrance, I hear a loud crash from across the pool over by the gym, which I figured could be interpreted to be somebody opening that door at the end of the hallway and coming back into the main area. On the way out, we did find a bike chained up to a pole that we weren't sure. Actually, we know for a fact that from looking at photos later that it wasn't there the last time we were there. Now, I actually have another creepy story about this place, and I think this was the third time. I think it was the last time I was there. I went back a group of 2. I was with my cousin, and the reason we were there was because, the first time we were there in a group of 5, and, we had a pretty chill time just exploring the place and digging through files and learning about the history. Actually, one of us was able to dig up information on how the place was pretty much lying to the IRS about the business they were doing, and so that kind of started a whole set of proceedings that compounded with the fact that the owner was divorced and having to make payments that they basically stopped doing. It was incredible how much personal information we were able to dig up, is the point. Anyway, that led to this place being abandoned in about anywhere from 2005 to 2007. And so there it had been for, at that time, about 11 years. God, I'm sorry. I keep getting distracted by the landscape, and it's leading me to go off on all these tangents. I feel like a grandpa in a rocking chair just telling stories. So anyway, I tied an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. And the point of that whole tangent was that we were there in a group. It was not nearly as tense as when I was alone. And we poured over this thing. which is why the room that we missed is such an oddity. We would have walked back and forth past this doorway 1,000,001 times, and maybe it was just the darkness, maybe it was the insulation hanging in the way. Something about it just caused all of our brains to completely overlook it. But I did notice this doorway when I was reviewing pictures earlier, and for months I was like, what could that possibly be? Because with the architecture of the building, I realized it's not just a closet. Like, there's a good chunk of space that we didn't see. So next time we had a chance, I mounted an expedition with my cousin, and we went in there and found that doorway. Alright guys, sorry to do this to you. We've just had another little distraction at Channel First. I ran out of record space, and I cannot explain why, because I had like over 1 terabyte left when I started this, and the recording that it broke off was 75 gigs. Well, this is why we record MKV. Is the load okay? Yes, the load is okay. Perfect. We just hit a sign. I am shamed. But anyways, where was I? Alright, so we found this room, and it is dark, like pitch dark inside. You could tell there was no natural light anywhere within. And it was kind of a maze because there was just like ceiling insulation hanging low all over. Like it was a forest in there. I fired a single flash off into the dark. And I looked at the LCD of my camera, and what I saw was toys. Dirty, rusty, grimy toys, but just children's toys. And so we go in, and we're sort of ducking and weaving through all this hanging insulation. And what we realize is it's a daycare. This place had a daycare. And so the ground is this like multicolored, like padded floor. There's toys just absolutely saturating the place. In the corner, oddly enough, there's like a huge tube TV and like the wooden casing and all, with a bunch of VHS tapes stacked on top that we couldn't identify. There was even a whiteboard that still had like the messages of the day and stuff still there. In fact, it was celebrating the 3rd birthday of a kid who by that time would have had to be like at least in their late teens. It was really, really eerie. Especially how all that was just hidden away. The thought that it was just sitting there while we were moving past it over and over again for a couple hours months before. I don't know, I think the idea of something like that, someplace where childhood memories were made, where a lot of fun was had, and honestly, who knows what else, could still exist but be so forgotten to the point where it's even hard to find if you're there. There's a thought that I have regarding urban exploration and a lot of things that was actually recently addressed in the game Night in the Woods, and it blew my mind that other people had thought of this. Right now, I'm sitting here at my computer, it's a little after midnight, and it's there. In the dark, just sitting. Those toys are where they've been for 20 years. No one's there to perceive it, but I'm thinking about it because I have seen it in the past. Same could be said for anywhere we've been, I guess. It's just a weird thought that, you know, there was life there for a brief moment while I was there. We were taken aback by just how creepy and silent and desolate this place was, but it wasn't really desolate because we were there. Right now, there's truly nothing. And I'm picturing it, and that gives me the willies. But anyway, it is 3 o'clock, and I think now would be a great time to stop by this scenic rest. Scenic indeed. Alright. Let's just break off here. Can we just park a truck right here, or are there designated truck spots? Nope, we can just stop wherever we want on the gravel. time for a nap. Wow, it still went to 1 a.m. But look at that, one of our drivers just made $8,000 on a job. Good job. Look at this. Take this in for a moment. The mirror reflections are brighter than they should be, but the rest? Total darkness. I can just barely hear the crickets in here. I adore this. Away from the cities, away from major highways, it truly is dark out here. A kind of dark that I think, depending on your location, a lot of us forget exists. But we're gonna pierce that darkness, because we've still got a job to do. I'm gonna try to wait until morning to gas up, because I want to take my time here. This is the part of the video that I've been waiting for. The time when we've got a few hours in the night, and I can talk about the other side of road trips. The part where you can only see what's immediately in front of you, illuminated in your headlights, and you never know what's going to come screaming into view next. I've talked about this at length in the other video that I made on ATS, and so much so in the Long Drive series, but I feel like it's worth revisiting here. I love night driving because of the unknowns. And the fact that I feel like trucker and road culture are almost similar to like nautical culture. Because this is a time when you're alone in that vast dark void that is connected by human construction, and yet very often you're the only one on it. These roads have so much history, so much that they see when no one's here to observe it, and you see things. You're often out here on a long haul, nobody to keep you company, nothing to keep your mind at ease. Maybe sleep deprived, maybe, I don't know, just starting to lose it from watching the same stretch of road roll under you for hours and hours, and the headlights might jolt you awake. You know, suddenly you're aware of the danger inherent to driving. And as you move forward in that heightened state, you start to think of the what-ifs. What if those lights were actually eyes staring at me from the trees? What if some creature jumped into the road? And maybe you'll start to think that's what has happened. We're starting to have a little bit more company, but it's still a great black ocean stretching off before us. I mean, I think it's a bored mind that makes up stories, and once you start to make up stories, you can start to believe them. It's how we get stories of the ghost trucker, you know? Imagine seeing headlights far up ahead and wanting to catch up, and somehow you just never do, no matter how fast you're going, to the point where you're recklessly speeding through the desert and somehow you just can't catch these lights. Maybe you'll spin a story about how they're guiding you away from some inevitable danger behind you, or how they're a trucker much like you who veered off the road and never made it to their destination. It's how we get stories of hellhounds that chase cars down the highway, and even things you do see can very much lead you to those conclusions. These well-lit intersections are boring. I'll continue on this thought once we're through. Times like this, having an unspoken, a silent companion in the form of a truck in front of you can do wonders for your mental health. Oh yeah, we're forming a highway wall. This is gonna annoy the crap out of anybody. Okay, so it seems like we're getting a little bit more back into civilization now. Is this going to break up anytime soon? Not super soon, really. Not until we get past Rattan? So I guess I'll just get it out now. Like, imagine you're driving down a curvy forested road, and just as you make a turn, you see the back legs of a deer go into the woods, into the tree line. But maybe in that split second you don't see it that way. Maybe you see them as much longer legs that maybe go up and beyond what your headlights can see. Maybe in that moment you tell yourself the story of the tall, pale figure that got out of the way as you came into view. And then when you stop, maybe at a diner or a truck stop or a rest, you tell that story to other people. And they laugh it off, you know, they just think it's old-timers entertaining each other on the road. And that's what it is. Until you're all alone again. Until you're driving those roads and you remember, hey, isn't this where Big Bill told me he saw that tall, lanky figure go into the trees? And maybe it's just in that moment, when you're nodding off, that a branch comes down into view just low enough to catch the light. And then you spread the story about how I saw it too, how it reached out with its impossibly long arms and tried to grab me. Maybe you even heard its fingernails drag along the top of the cabin. It's just like at sea. Bored minds produce legends, especially when nobody's around to prove it. There's a lack of witnesses out here. Okay, guys, you're kind of making a fool of me. I've been trying to make this right turn forever. I kind of hit it prematurely, and I was too prideful to turn it off. I-25. I've never seen an interstate marked with such festivities before. That's not the right word, but like I said, mostly unedited. I don't have time to come up with right words. It's a real humdrum of a situation. I honestly don't even know if that's correct or not. I don't think it is. But even though we're back in overpass and streetlight territory again, it seems like we've more or less got the road to ourselves. I actually have this one book that I've had since I was a kid that's all about road ghost stories. I love legends like this. It's called Haunted Highway? Something... God, I can't even think of the name now. Something Hauntings and Highway Horrors. And it's basically a compendium of road legends. I really loved this author as a kid, Daniel Cohen, who would just compile all these, like, so-called true ghost stories and just place them all together in a book. Because, first of all, they're a lot more fun when you're a kid and you just don't know what is and isn't real in the world. But also, having them presented that way, it lends an air of credibility in the plausible deniability. It's just collections of stories about a place. Nobody saw it, it's all unverifiable, and it makes the world so much more interesting. Not reading it and believing that it's all true, but not knowing what's true, or not knowing what inspired the falsehood. Because the thing is, some of them are outright lies, but some of them saw something. And even if their account isn't necessarily reflective of the reality, they saw something that led them to come to that conclusion, and that makes the world feel like there's more in it. There's this one line in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's, I think it's the third one, at World's End. Or maybe that's the last of the Cornetto trilogy. I don't remember what they're all called. But the point is, in the second movie, there's the Kraken. It's the reason pirates fear the open ocean. This huge squid-like creature that can drag an entire full-size ship down to the depths. And it's unstoppable. It proves to be too much for the heroes in that movie. And then in the next one, we're constantly waiting to see when it's going to come back, and when it does, they simply find it washed up on a beach like any other refuse. And they have a whole conversation about the nature of legends on the ocean, and one of them makes some comment to the effect of, like, the world is getting so much smaller now, because ultimately these movies are about the end of the golden age of piracy. And for as much terror as this thing caused, for as much as we wanted it gone, I think it's Captain Jack who replies, the world's still the same, there's just less in it. Over time, we lost that wonder. When you didn't know what was over the hill, it was objectively worse times. I will say that. We learn these things so that we could make our lives better. That's why we explore. That's why we satisfy our curiosity, so we can use what we learn to make our lives better. But it's still sad to lose the not knowing, because it was fun thinking maybe here be dragons. There's this one story, I actually read the legend of it on the channel years ago before it took off, but it's the legend of the Charman, and it's one that's always stuck with me. And part of what makes it so cool is that there's so many different versions of it, but basically the modern day context is that while driving on this one isolated road outside of a desert town in California, up in the hills, there's a bridge, and if you come to it upon a certain time, or even just when you're unlucky, because it is a night or day legend, you might run into the Charman, a man who is described as either with blackened, burnt skin, or alternately wearing clothes and even a head mask made from burlap sacks that are tied around them to hide their hideous face, but you can always tell from their hands. And claims vary on whether they'll attack you or chase motorists away, or whether they'll just kind of watch you from the bushes. But there's also variation on the story, but it all always stems from a massive wildfire that happened there in the 1940s. A fire that, destroyed huge swaths of land, even devastated the local towns. But the thing is, there are no reports of fatalities, making who this person would be kind of an unknown. But the story, as I heard it, goes that there was a child and a father living in a remote cabin out in the hills, and they had no warning, and so when this fire came through, they were trapped in this cabin as it washed over them. And basically, when rescuers came up, they found that the father had completely burned away and the child was missing. It's only years later that teenagers stopped on the side of the road to drink or party or do whatever, started reporting being chased away by this hulking, burnt figure who would run out of the woods with an axe and just hoot and holler at them, screaming something that's barely English until they got in their cars and drove away. People have reported, driving down the road and having rocks thrown at their windshield, and so, that's led rise to speculation that either the Charman just doesn't want them there, or that it's actively trying to hunt them so that they can eat them. I refer to them as it because when it's all through stories and no confirmed fact, they become these larger-than-life figures. It's very difficult to believe that a child could be that severely burned and yet still survive to run off into the hills for decades, because stories, I think, don't emerge until, the 60s or something like that, so they would be in their 20s or 30s by then, and the thing is, reported sightings persist up until the modern day, and that becomes a whole other can of worms, because this was in the 40s. They would surely either be dead by now, or far too infirm to continue chasing people, and yet the stories continue. Are most accounts lies, but there's some kernel of truth? Did this person never exist at all? And if not, how did it come about? Who knows? I mean, some more twisted versions of the story even posit that when they found the father's burned corpse, that he had been partially or mostly eaten. It's a terrifying thought, and, for however implausible it may seem, admit it, it would be at the back of your mind if you're driving up in those hills outside town, if you're going over that Charman Bridge in the middle of the night. A little part of you might expect to see a man with a burlap sack over his head standing at the side of the road holding an axe. Well, I suppose our ghost story is over because now we have sunrise. And maybe we can set our mind at ease just a little bit. How much farther do we still have to go? 571 miles still. But we can surely make that today. Actually, it is Thursday. We're currently expected today. We're probably, at this rate, if we sleep again, gonna arrive Friday morning, so maybe we didn't have quite as much time as we thought. Okay, we've got to slow down. We're going through a town. I need to find a place where I can gas up, and I can't do it at that little station right there. Wow, there is still so much longer to go. I've been recording for like 2.5 hours. I'll respect the speed limit, but only so much. I have places to be. And I've certainly dawdled a fair bit. Okay, back up to highway speeds. Now granted, these tanks can hold a lot of gas, but I feel like we have gotten pretty good mileage considering. I mean, this has lasted us a long way. We've come, what, like 1,400 miles at this point? We're still only 2/3 of the way there, though. Here, we're hitting the Great Flat. I've heard that, like, laser scans have been done that determine that Kansas, the state, is literally flatter than a pancake. Look at that. The open road, power lines to our right, and the sun just barely creeping in from the left. Blocked by my mirror so it's not in my eyes. That's one of the great unrealisms of this game, is that the sun doesn't completely blind you. Maybe the idea is that we're wearing sunglasses. Aviators, I'd like to say. Actually, I wonder, because I've never looked into it, can we actually customize our trucker skin? Like, I know we have to choose our portrait in the beginning, but can we buy accessories for our character? I'm gonna slow down a little bit. Now's not the time to be going into the third-person view. But if we have a look... Yeah, we can see our guy in there. I don't want to take my eyes off the road for too long. Well, that's the holdup. Are we really respecting the speed limit this far outside of town? Oh man, things are gonna grind to a halt here. Expected 9 additional hours of driving. That's assuming we follow the speed limit. Presumably it calculates that along the route, right? Like, it doesn't expect us to be going 70 the whole way. Look at that. I really want to hang out in one of these, like, small Midwestern towns with, like, a main street like this, you know? These little things that are just dotted all throughout the country. It's another one of those things you see in this game where it's such a big part of American imagery, and just due to my location, I've never seen it. It's a big country. Culture varies a lot between it. There's the police. So were I speeding right now, I might actually get a ticket. Of course, you could just argue that that's the cost of doing business, couldn't you? I mean, we're getting paid $150,000 for this job. If I were to just blow through towns at 80 miles an hour the whole way, I feel like those fines still wouldn't make too big a dent. Of course, it's been a while since I got a ticket in this game. I don't know what they would actually charge me. Maybe they would do it more for, like, consecutive charges. Imagine if you could actually lose your license in this game. That would be hilarious. I remember playing a game years ago on the PS2 when I was way too young to play it, called Narc, where you play as, like, a drug enforcement, like, undercover cop. And you could just, like, it had sort of a free roam element where you could just walk around the streets busting people, and you would arrest them and confiscate their drugs, and you would drop them back at the police evidence bin. But you could also use them yourself for a whole bunch of, like, power-ups and side effects. And I remember I was messing around one time, and I was just doing, like, a really, really bad job being a cop. And I was really surprised to find you can lose your job and just end up in, like, street clothes walking around the map. And I don't remember if you have a way to, like, get back onto the force or if it's just, like, a non-standard game over, but it was really surprising and funny to me. Look at this. Midwest industry. Giant grain silos and logistics hubs. The whole middle of the country is all about moving things into and around the coasts. 30 miles an hour on this stretch of road, really. This is painful. I mean, maybe it's more choked with traffic in an unmodded game, but still. And that cop's got me nervous. We've been driving almost perfectly, except for that sign I ran over when I ran out of recording space. Still, this drive that I moved recording to, the OBS overflow folder, that's got about 4 terabytes available, so we should be good. Then again, I thought we were good on the other one. Well, it took 1,000 miles, but here we are, stopped behind traffic at a red light. Thank you very much. I'd say we had a pretty good run of not having to deal with this. Okay, but we really need to stop and get some gas. I almost forgot again. Oh, wow. This might be a tight squeeze. But we've got to do it. I could detach the trailer and come back for it. Looks like we're probably... Are we going to be okay? Yeah, I know it's cheating. It looks like we're probably going to be okay. So let's fill up for the second time, once more dropping hundreds of dollars on filling up. I even like how the gas prices vary from place to place. And I think it's even as deep as there being like weird like traffic laws enforced depending on the state. Like I know some of them police departments have different policies about how high over the speed limit to go after you. Like, in some states, it's like 15 over, and some it's 10. Sorry, I'm getting in your way. I'm moving over to the right lane. This really is American Truck Simulator, isn't it? But it's gorgeous, and there's a beauty in the monotony, and I'm really glad that this game, in its art direction, is able to bring that across. Because I'll be honest, from my experience, it's prettier than the real thing. Monotony tends to just be monotony. Maybe that's only from my perspective as a passenger. Still, I think what would make this more immersive, more fun, is definitely to get a steering wheel. a steering wheel and some pedals. Having to actually engage with emotions, I think that would add a lot. I've only used one a little bit at my cousin's house, and I definitely would need to get the hang of it, but it would be a huge step up. Well, we're already almost tired again. We've only been on the road for a few hours. But then again, there is a certain fatigue from doing this. I mean, we're seated all the time. We're just kind of watching the road roll under us, and that can kind of have like a hypnotic effect. It's sort of a compounding factor to drowsiness. Every once in a while, there's a challenge to engage your brain, you know, somebody with their bright sun coming in the opposite direction or having to maneuver around a blockage. But for the most part, you are just kind of drifting off the whole time. You gotta make your own entertainment, you know. Make sure you're watching Family Guy on your phone while you drive, or you're gonna get distracted and fall asleep. Come on, what's the holdup? Wow. Maybe that's the trick. You just have to look away and look back, and like magic, the light will flip. Now, it is technically illegal to do that. This is the most illegal thing that everyone does, is round the corner into the farther lane. Because you're supposed to remain in your lane as you make a turn, but everybody, even in small cars who have no excuse, always end up one to the left. Anybody who has been on any road trip knows that precise hotel design. They may not be putting a logo on the front, but we've all seen that exact cookie-cutter building. Right, looks like we're finally getting up to speed again. Hey, this is super dangerous to be blazing past you. Amarillo. Oh, and we're already taking it down to 60 again. Way to literally take the wind out of my non-literal sails. Car Zone. They may have changed the name, but they haven't even changed, like, the design of the logo. No, that's stupid. I was gonna suggest just, like, partnering with real companies. You know, you would think they would love the idea of having, like, free advertising just in this virtual game where people can actually stop and look at the billboards. But I can definitely see why the developers wouldn't reach out for that. I mean, I can't help but think of how the Doritos trucks were removed from the Ghostbusters game. You really don't want to build those licensing issues into a game that's meant to persist long term. I mean, imagine this getting delisted because there's like a Carl's Jr. billboard somewhere. Like right now, they could just remove it, but like, you know, what if it's 10 years in the future, they've moved on from this game, but that billboard is still there, so they delist it rather than have somebody remove it. What is this icon that's showing up here? Oh, also I just realized I've had that thing on forever. I'm not a has-been. I'm a will-be. A will-be? Is that like a wallaby? Your tattered posters are hovering a fair distance from the wall there. What is with this logo? What do we do here? Sorry, I'm taking a bit of a detour. Activate viewpoint. Look at that! I had no idea stuff like this was in the game. So I wonder if this is like some kind of historic building. It looks like it's closed down. Some windows at street level are boarded. And the Midwest has a lot of things like this. Oh, look at that. We're getting a whole tour of the city. This game is so cool. There's a meme with Flight Simulator 2020, and I guess by extension 2024, where people call it Sightseeing Simulator. This game sort of leans into that too. Look at those seagulls just kind of sitting up there. Wait, seagulls? Are we anywhere near anywhere they should be? ATS Bank. Look, we've even got the Tor helicopters flying around, or news choppers. Alright, I think that's enough for now. We are on a schedule here, and this video is already going to be like 3 hours. Suffice to say, it's in moments like this you can really see the care that is put into this. This game's been out for 9 years. We only have like the western part of the US. We're only now starting to expand into the southeast with like Louisiana coming. But it's been worth the wait. It's been worth the wait because while mods have done the work of having very copy and paste highways sort of filling in the role of having the whole country, it just can't compare to this. Right, now we have a problem. Because we have to get out of this parking lot. I did not think this through. So let's try and stretch this out. We don't want you hitting that pole. Helps to turn a little and straighten the wheel so that it has a little bit of time to catch up with you. Try not to hit these cars in front of us. Try not to hit them with the trailer either, and I think we're good. And this is the kind of thing that really only experience can make you better at. Like, my cousin can do all of this no problemo. He has like some ridiculous number of hours in this game. He's pretty much been playing non-stop since it came out. Granted, it's also because he plays it so much that he just kind of leaves it on while he sleeps, but he also has a huge amount of actual played hours. For some reason, these Midwestern towns, they remind me of what, like, every 80s movie looked like. These large, like, white concrete buildings and rows of fairly nondescript office space. Like, that's the most striking thing, is that it's clearly American architecture and street design, but it's not absolutely saturated in advertising. And I say that looking at a billboard, but that's nothing. It actually makes me kind of sad, because I like this. I like these small town vibes. I like not having constant noise. I mean, my house, I can only record at night. The reason I only record at night is because I am sandwiched between 2 major highways and a rail line. And so during the day, it's just too loud. I'm hearing noise from one of the highways right now, but it's just better than during the day. Here, when everything isn't trying to sell you something, when it really does feel like a place you can just walk around and hang out without having to spend money, there's value in that. There's real value in that. And it's something that's so foreign to me. Even living in the same country. Oklahoma City, Fort Worth. It's crazy how on the interstate you have these signs that are all right next to each other, and yet they point to wildly far apart locations. I think the word wild is maybe getting too much use in this video. I've noticed when looking back at old videos that my go-to terminology sort of evolves over time, and I'm not sure why. You can, like, geologically date a video based on what terms I'm using. There is something kind of satisfying about taking these turns. These real sustained curved roads where you're just kind of being thrown to the side of your seat for like 15 seconds at a time. It's even more satisfying in real life when you can actually feel it. So those signs warn us against the dangers of texting and driving, which of course is very dangerous. But imagine getting into an accident here and suing the state because you're saying, I was reading this text from the state and got distracted. I mean, effectively, that's what it is. Billboards are dangerous, man. Especially when they have, like, really small print with the number. I mean, I suppose you can always have a passenger, like, Google it as you go, but even still, you counting on that? I've actually heard, and, you know, as a non-driver, this is all foreign to me, but it makes sense. I've heard people say that it should be illegal to put, like, loud car crash noises and such, or, like, highway noises in radio ads, because it's very, very common. It's designed to get your attention while you're driving, but that's super dangerous, because now you're looking all around trying to figure out where the danger is. And it's happening all at once and startling you? There's a train rolling by. Oops. Oh wow, I just pulled that maneuver in front of a cop. But yeah, trains. The unsung heavy lifting truck. And we think we can haul a lot? No, no. Trains can be like miles and miles long with an absurd number of cars. It's crazy. And that is how you do the heavy logistics. If you need a lot of things moved, that's how you do it. I really do feel like a toddler beside a giant when I go by a train in this. Oop. Oh wow, it even models the highway ridges. I didn't notice those for so long in real life, and then it blew my mind. Just a piece of smart engineering, you know? The kind of thing where if you're maybe dozing off a little bit, maybe still think you've got it, you roll over those little ridges in the highway and it makes that buzzing noise, and you feel it as well, and it's just this little way of going, hey, wake up. Alright, we can bring the speed up here. How we doing on rest? I'm gonna ride this thing right to the end, or maybe not, because we can strategize when we sleep. Early to bed, early to rise, right? And we can get another night out of it. I could do with another night. How about you guys? Could you do another night? Ugh, my throat is so dry. I could definitely use the break as well. I have been taking like 10-minute breaks to drink and just kind of recuperate every time I've stopped. I really didn't expect this video to be so physically demanding, you know that? But I guess anytime you're talking non-stop for long periods, it's gonna make the throat sore. I can't work tomorrow anyway, because I'm gonna be somewhere, so it'll be nice to have something where I can just kind of edit on my laptop in a corner. Oh, what are they growing down there? It's white fields. I don't know if cotton is really grown out here, but also I really don't know anything about agriculture, so I don't know why I said I don't think. I literally don't have enough information to make that determination on. Inspection. They do also have a place to sleep, so maybe we'll do that here. There we go. Now let's pull up and figure out what our next move is going to be. It's going to be annoying to swing around and get this. Can I maybe... Okay, we can stop just anywhere. So can I park parallel to you like this, completely blocking the road? I cannot. And now we've sort of lost our chance. It's me again. I have sort of an addiction to the inspection process. You know what? There's a full-on rest stop up ahead. I would rather sleep there. I'd rather do that than messing around here. So let's put up some speed, nobody coming. And also check how much farther we've got left in this journey. 276 miles. So we're basically there. We don't have to worry about making the time. We're going to make it. This is just kind of a nice treat for ourselves. Being able to continue our journey in the dark. We're going way too fast now. Come on, red light. You existed long before I arrived. Your time is over now. I can see the green light indicating that we could go left if that's what we were doing. Go on, take a rest. There we are. Use the turn light to inform the exact precise moment when you're going to step on that gas pedal and start slowly nudging forward. Be correct, or be embarrassed. And also potentially in an accident if you really screw it up. That's the thing, is that when you do something that really slows your roll, you come up with all these little mental mini-games. Through the town, and we are moving again. Hopefully just in time to stop moving again. Because, yep, I can see on the GPS that rest stop up ahead. Oh, nope, that's the highway sign. So maybe it's a little farther than we thought. Wow. Rest area, 1 mile. Let's see what 1 mile looks like in-game. I think I mentioned this earlier, but the scale was increased at some point, back when there were only a handful of states. They very wisely decided to do it before they added a whole bunch of them, because it was a Herculean project apparently at the time. So I can't even imagine trying to do it now. It essentially means redeveloping the map. Cars to the left, trucks and RVs to the right. I'm a truck and/or RV. Man, I cannot wait until they add, like, commercial buses to the game. I think that'll be super cool. Nighty-night. 1 p.m., so we're gonna get a lot more night. 11. That driver lost money. I love this moment where there are some lights. There's the lights of the park itself, but dark beyond. Well, except for the occasional car passing by. Other than that, even our own cabin isn't lit up yet, but we can change that. I almost started my right turn prematurely, and that would have been disastrous. I would really hate to have some damage to this car go now, when we come so far. It's really weird how, in the trucking world, within 300 miles is basically the home stretch for a job like this. It's like, oh yeah, I can bang that out in a couple minutes. Wow, the highway noise outside is actually getting deafening, mainly because people like to street race on there at night. It's currently 1:30 in the morning. See, forests are one thing, mountain roads are another. But just the wide open plains are something else at night. Because that is what it looks like. It gives the illusion of always being on the coast, like you're just coming up on the beach. But that's not the case, it's just what little light bounces back. Look, we can see just faint spires of these tall power lines I was gonna say the fog, because that's what it feels like, a black fog. Oh, and I have allowed myself to get very, very fast without even realizing it. You can see the occasional lights from a barn, a farmhouse off to the periphery, and some incoming traffic. Somebody's having a bad night. Thankfully that somebody isn't me. Oh great, I spoke too soon. I'm about to be behind somebody. Alright, can we keep it going? Can we pass them on the left? Hopefully conditions favor us by the time we get there. Oop. Conditions do. And we can do it anyway because you are concealing a car. You're kind of just going fast enough to be annoying, huh? Oop. All according to plan. Literally the reason I got the Pacific Northwest stuff is just because I wanted to be in densely forested areas with curvy, hilly mountain roads. And we got that. We got a little bit of that. And not even in the Pacific Northwest. In this DLC, I think we saw... What little of that we had, I think, was really back in Colorado. Now the question is... Well, no, it just said we're in Wichita. I was going to say, are we still in Colorado? No. Or Wichita Falls. Very different, actually, from Wichita. Yeah, we're in Texas. We have made it to Texas. Like, I said that because I knew I had read Wichita, and then immediately I thought about where Wichita is, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That was kind of cool, just drifting under the overpass. These lights passing through the cabin as we went in near total silence. See, this is atmospheric in its own way because it's sort of like another element of the road, where the road trance is a known and well-established thing. The streetlights kind of become part of that in their repetition, and they actually glow. Although I will say I do still prefer having the headlights be the only source of illumination. See? That's what I'm talking about. Oh, come on, we can go faster than this. It's the home stretch. Only another 125 miles. This is when you die, by the way. This is when you're like, okay, I'm gonna do a victory lap, I'm gonna show off, I'm gonna take this corner going 80 miles an hour. But I guess the flaming heap will be close enough for the client to collect. One issue with using the keyboard and mouse, though, is that it's very hard to, like, align yourself the exact way you want. See, look, that's the kind of thing I love. That whole bridge just suddenly appeared in front of me. I was looking at the black night sky, and suddenly there was something in it. One thing I like about this game is the fact that it does just let you free roam. I've done this on foot, I've done this by train, but I feel like if I were to drive, which I am probably going to be doing fairly soon, I would be the kind of person who will just be like bored at 2 a.m. and be like, I'll go to the next state over. I don't know, that kind of impulsiveness is something that I really appreciate the ability to do in life. Maybe it's in part because it's one I've never really had, but you know, just the ability to say, I can go here and see this and do this at any time, that's huge. Because I want to experience things, I want to do stuff, I want to see things. Maybe in part it's because, like, I was always a nervous kid, I was always very risk-averse. To the point where I would, like, make up risks where there weren't any. I would always find some excuse to say no to being asked to do something. It was actually urban exploration that kind of broke me out of that. It was the year after graduation. I was bored for a year, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna say yes to the next thing. I'm gonna try to say yes more. And my friend came over and was like, hey, you want to go explore this abandoned psych hospital? And I was like, yes. And it seemed like such a bad idea, but it's led to so many good things. Not just as a result of doing that, which became one of my favorite hobbies, but also as a result of just adopting that mindset going forward. It's like I was talking about in the beginning of this video. I did nothing for basically 8 years following graduation. I'm not sure if I ever actually circled back around to a point with that one, but having the mindset that I got into with the channel also helped me. The sort of workaholic mindset, which comes with its own problems, but everything's a trade-off. I do complain a lot about this job, and those complaints I stand by. There are problems unique to this, and some of it is unique to YouTube, some of it is just what comes with being a small business owner. I'm a corporation, man. I should be able to vote twice. I always talk about the main thing being a lack of free time. Uploading every day is time-consuming. And the fact that I'm uploading more than once a day, the fact that I've got like the Patreon and certain things that need to be double uploads so that they can come out in time. But I wouldn't trade it for anything, because what it gives me is freedom. It might seem like a lack of freedom because I have to spend all this time making videos, but I do those things so that I can have the backlog, so if I need to take a day off, I can just say, yeah, whatever, just throw out something that's in the pile. And what that gives, what I want is, like, I guess more ways to use that freedom. Now, if you want me to complain about the job for a little while longer, I could always go into specifics, like the fact that the Content ID system is absolutely atrocious, how just about anyone can make a claim even if they don't own something, and you are basically powerless to appeal it. The fact that I have no idea how a given video is going to do, so I really can't plan around anything. Like, that's the thing. Somebody asked on the Discord in the Q&A channel, like, hey, like, you know, it's an awkward question, but financially, does YouTube treat you well? And the answer is, yeah, it does, but it's so inconsistent, it varies so much, that it makes me hesitant to do something like buy a house or do anything more long-term or more, like, more of a commitment, because ultimately I just don't know what the future holds. And so those are kind of the anxieties of running a business, is that I can choose a lot. I have the freedom to decide my own hours. I'm very flexible. But at the same time, there's just so much uncertainty. Like, compared to taking home a paycheck and knowing, like, okay, this year I'm going to make this much money. But look at that. It seems we're just about here. Okay, now before we pull into this lot, look. If that's not liminal, I don't know what is. Rows of cargo containers and an endless expanse of light poles that just seem to stretch off to infinity. Before we pull in, do we have any damage? No. No, no, no. We have perfectly done this. So I don't know about you, but I am super proud. Which way am I supposed to go in? Am I going through this thing here? I don't know what this is. I've never seen this before. Oh, we can go through the gates. Those are on the other side. You know what? It looks like the GPS is guiding me through this thingamajig. So let's jig this thing. Okay, you're saying traffic flows this way. Okay, there. It's so hard to see which side of the barriers they're on until you come up on it. Alright, let's do a security check. I've never seen stuff like this in this game before. What is so important about this thing? Yeah, well, I guess it's just a general rule of the logistics hub, wherever all this is going. So does this mean that it's maybe being, like, shipped overseas or something? Like, is this a port? Wait, no, we're well inland. That's what I was thinking. I was like, how, this looks like a port, but how can it be? there's the bright green dot that ends this whole journey. It doesn't really feel like it's been that long, honestly. According to the recording, it's been like 3.5 hours. Granted, I took a few breaks in there. But thus ends one job of many more in the future. Okay, where are we leaving you? Right there. There's 3 different tiers to the difficulty of where you leave it. You could just end the job, you could put it in a very specific spot, or you could put it in an easier spot. Right now I'm doing the easier spot. We get a little bit of extra XP for this. But it's challenging because we need to straighten this trailer out. So let's kind of finely tune it. Again, if you're good at this, you can do this just using the mirrors and looking out the window. I am not good at this, nor do I want to spend the time. There we are. And now, if we had our UI there, we could know that we pressed T to unload the trailer. And there we go. It took us 70 hours, so almost 3 full days. But we drove a total of 2,082 miles after detours and such, made all these bonuses. Seeing this stuff stack is so satisfying. Went up a whole level and made $148,000. And that is a pretty good haul for 3 days of work, I think. And now we get to choose how we upgrade, and I think longer distance might be fun. Really, it hardly matters at this stage. At rank 6 long distance, we can get distances over 2,500 miles. I don't know if the size of my map even allows that at this point. I'm just gonna go for fragile cargo. Right now, I just like expanding the job opportunities. For which we could also get like explosives. Getting our license in different areas is really going to enable the job variety, so let's get that. If we look up here, we've got 700,000 and change in the bank. If we look at our debt, that's against $234,000 of debt left. But there's really, against $6,000 a day, we're making that from our people. There's really no reason to give that money back. Instead, I'd rather invest that in the company. So what we can do is go to Company, Garage Manager. We own this one in Elko, Nevada. And we should have a button somewhere to upgrade. For $100,000, we can add 2 new slots. And this little business is taking its first steps towards becoming a big business. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work. I'm gonna have to buy a couple more trucks. I'm gonna have to hire 2 more drivers. The money situation is going to snowball, and it's never gonna stop. Well, now we find ourselves in a far foreign city, and nothing much to do. So, I would probably sleep the night, but if we have a look at the freight market, we can see what other jobs are out there nearby. We could do some smaller things nearby. But you know what? If you guys like this, maybe that'll be some other time. For now, I think we've earned a rest. Yes, a rest. Right here. Right in the client slot. America. Nobody can take this freedom from me, and if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this game out for yourself, that link will also be in the description. If you want to support me on Patreon, that link will be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.